No cyclist currently racing has won more stages in a Tour de France. There are 3 riders, Cipollini, Zabel and Armstrong, all on 12 wins. Armstrong is underway, and now what can he do with 7 riders chasing him, all on the same team? As Miller now races for a high finish, and let's hope a high place in the overall classification tonight, because he's been training specifically for the mountains, which has damaged his pure speed, he thinks, in the time trial. But even so, he's not going to get at the times of the top 4 riders. He should, in fact, he might well get into the time here of Frigo, and better that one, because Frigo's finish time is 1:3:52. Miller, though, is in 4th place at 1 hour 3 minutes for Miller. Come on, David, you need a sprint to the line here, because conceding a little bit, but David Miller, silver medalist in the World Time Trial Championships, now in 4th place with 1:3:08. Now, here's the big news. Sergei Honchar heading up towards the finish now. Is it a new best time here? He was 8 seconds behind Santiago Botero with 6 kilometers to go. Has he kept those legs punching out this enormous pedaling gear? He certainly looks as though he's moving with some speed now. He's looking to do a time of 1:2:18 if he's going to get it, but I don't think he is, Paul. That time, I think, has slipped away. Yes, it has. It has. So Honchar coming in at the moment. He should hang on to second best time. A little bit more of a sprint, Sergei. You're not quite there. As he comes up to the line, it's going to be a longer one than he anticipated. 1:2:36 for the moment. Second place for the former world time trial champion.
The problem
on the course, Jalabert, a problem with his bike as well as his helmet. Here's the situation replayed for you. Now, Paul, is it a flat tyre? I think the way he stopped it must be.
Well, he's trying to take the back wheel, but in fact it's going to take too long, and the mechanic is going to come up as quickly as possible. It looks as if he's got that stuck in there. You see, he's actually trying to unscrew that himself, and this is a very slow change for Laurent Jalabert. This is the problem with the aerodynamic bikes. The wheels and the quick release skewers have to be tightened down, and the mechanic has gone back to the car right now. This has lost Laurent Jalabert pretty close to 45 seconds right now. The spare machine is up there and running, but you know, that really breaks the rhythm once something like that happens.
The leader of the Tour de France, 5 days in yellow, Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano, is now underway, and he must be asking himself the question, will he be in yellow by the time he reaches the finishing line?
Armstrong coming up to the first time check. We'll get an indication. 24:40 is the time to beat, and in fact it looked as if Lance Armstrong has gone through there in 24:46, which is rather a surprise. He has possibly started quite slow. That was the time that I read off the top gantry over the line there at the first time check, 19.5 kilometers covered. Now that will be rather interesting.
That would be a surprise, Paul. We'll wait and get confirmation of that. Tyler Hamilton's gone through just ahead at 34 seconds. There it is, Armstrong at 6 seconds, 24:46 for Lance Armstrong. This is going to be a most intriguing end to this time trial. We are waiting for just 3 riders to arrive at 35 kilometers, and it'll be interesting to see if Gonzalez de Galdeano has kept the pressure on Lance Armstrong and Santiago Botero. It'll be very interesting indeed. This is Joshiba Bolocki going through briefly as we return to the 3-kilometer banner now, and Armstrong, looking for a 13th stage win in a Tour de France, is keeping the rhythm going over that little rise, and once he smells the finish, he will squeeze that little bit more out of his body.
Well, he'll think about trying to knock the gear up just a little bit there. You can see on his shoulder there the bands indicating he's a former world champion. That was back when he was a 21-year-old youth in 1993. Wears number 1 on his back. He will know now that Santiago Botero has gone 5 seconds faster than him, and this is a difficult part of the course. It's very wide and open. You see Armstrong is cutting along the apexes of all the corners, trying to make his way to the finish line the shortest possible. He needs to sprint right now to try and get himself to the finishing line. inside the time of 1 hour, 2 minutes and 18 seconds. But what's more important is Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano out on the course has rivaled the time of Armstrong at the first time check. In fact, is much better than Armstrong's by a mere second. And in a short while, I would say around about 5 or 6 minutes, Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano should get to the second time check at 35 kilometers covered at Guidel-Plage.
And Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano is still the man in yellow, and he is over half distance of the time trial. So I think it's safe to assume, Paul, unless he completely cracks up, he's going to keep the race lead tonight.
By a few seconds, I would think, and it's going to be pretty dramatic then the first days in the mountains, because we may well be looking at a huge Spanish attack on the leadership of Lance Armstrong. There are some very good, strong Spanish teams in this year's Tour de France, and now that Kelme have seen the performance of their man Santiago Botero, they will try and blow the race to pieces when we go into the Pyrenees. So will this team as well, Team Once of Spain. They've got two very good men who have a great chance of winning the Tour de France this year, Joseba Belocchi and the man we're looking at right now, Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. And if they go on the attack, you can't discount any attacks coming from Euskaltel Euskadi and Banesto as well. But here is Armstrong right now. This is a very similar position to the position we saw last year. He knows how to win time trials. He wants to win this one. He wants to be the king of the individual effort. But right now he's got to topple the Colombian. 1:2:18 is the time to beat. At the moment on the clock it's 1:01:57. It's going to be very, very close.
Desperately close. He's looking to reverse a 5-second loss with 6 kilometers to go. There's the clock for you to see now and counting. Lance Armstrong is very close to the first or second in the time trial. He would want it to be first as he comes up to the line now. The clock is going to tell him he is not going to win the time trial. Santiago Botero has got a great scalp here as Armstrong comes up to the line. In fact, he's conceded a little bit more time on the approach to the line. As Armstrong comes up, he will be 10 seconds down. 1:2:29 for Armstrong.
Well, that is a huge surprise. 10.66 seconds he has conceded to Santiago Botero, and in fact he's lost 5 seconds over the last part. He looked as if he was riding his normal time trial today, but I think what has happened, in fact, we would have to say that Santiago Botero has ridden the time trial of his career. Now this is an important time check. This is the man who wears the yellow jersey. Started the day 34 seconds ahead of Lance Armstrong in the overall standings. His teammate has just gone through. We're here with the 8th best time, 57 seconds back, but the clock now is ticking. This is Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano, starts the day in first position. The time of his crossing the line here is exceptionally important. At the first time check, he was a second ahead of Lance Armstrong. Right now, we'll get a chance to see whether or not he's able to keep that. But I think, in fact, he's gone behind Armstrong at this point.
42:23 for Gonzalez de Galdeano, which means that he has indeed lost 7 seconds to Lance Armstrong. So he's over that opening sector. He's lost 8 seconds to Armstrong. Well, that means that he's made a huge effort at the start, and he might well be paying for it now. But you know, that is not enough time to lose the yellow jersey just yet, Paul.
No, it isn't. He starts the day with a 34-second advantage, and right now, if you stop the race, the 26 seconds that Lance Armstrong lost because of that crash is going to cost him the yellow jersey, possibly at the end of today. He was only 7 seconds behind this man in the overall standings when it came into the stage that finished in Avranches a few days ago. And as we have a look here at the 35-kilometer point, we get confirmation that Armstrong went through there with a brilliant time. 4th place there, though, for Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano, 7 seconds in adrift. So he's slowing, but he's putting in a brilliant performance right now, and it's going to be very close over the last 5 kilometers as to whether or not he keeps hold of the yellow jersey.
And we'll wait for the arrival, of course, of the last man in. That's Gonzalez de Galdeano, to see if he can just rise his pace in the last 6 kilometers. At the moment, it's Joseba Belocchi, for the last 2 years, 3rd in the Tour de France, as he now produces the best he can on the day. It's not going to be good enough to win him any prizes, and in fact, he is going to slip away from his 2nd place overall.
Well, he's not going to win the time trial this afternoon, but is in fact laying the foundations for a high place in the overall standings. The time of 1:02.18 of Santiago Botero has long ticked by. We're well into the 1 hour and 3 minutes right now, but Josiba Bolocki has done a good ride. He will finish inside the top 10, but he will slip behind Lance Armstrong in the overall standings.
And looking at the poker face of Santiago Botero is giving nothing away, and yet here he has just pulled out 1 minute 38 seconds on the man who's finished third in the Tour de France for the last 2 years. Now Bolocki has a lot of work to do in the mountains. His final time, looking at the clock, 1:03.56, his final time.
Well, at that point, the sheer drama of the day overloaded the French television circuits, and the climax of the stage was lost to the world's live broadcasters. In fact, these are the only pictures of Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano crossing the line. It didn't affect the result, though. He came in with a time of 1:02.37, good enough for fourth and good enough to keep him in the yellow jersey. So Santiago Botero hands Lance Armstrong his first defeat in a Tour de France time trial for 4 years to take a dramatic Stage 9 win. And it wasn't a bad day for David Miller either. 7th place for him, which was good enough to retake the lead in the Best Young Rider competition. There's the result in full. Botero first, 11 seconds ahead of Armstrong, with Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano fourth, comfortably inside the 34-second cushion that he had over the American at the start of the day.